What's up, everybody? It's Soren Baker here on Unique Access Entertainment. As always, please hit that subscribe button. It's right down there and it's free. That enables us to keep coming to y'all as often as possible with as many interviews as possible. So please hit that subscribe button, like our content, share it, talk about it, be about it, each one, teach one. And we appreciate your support in getting us this far. If you haven't already, please join 3 different tiers. That helps a lot too. Now, today we have the honor and privilege of being joined by 2 icons and legends in the game that are doing a lot of important work back in the day and continues till today. Pete Nice and Paradise Gray. Thank you so much for coming through.
You.
Thank you, Soren. Thanks for having us.
Yeah. And you guys are helping architect, build, and make this hip hop museum that's going to be open in 2025, and it's on tour now. It's going all different locations throughout the United States. So given that it's opening in 2025, why in 2023 was it important for you guys to do this tour where you're hitting different cities?
Well, first of all, peace and love. Thank you for having us. Paradise Gray. I'm the chief curator of the Hip Hop Museum, and my partner Pete Nice is my co-curator. Basically, the original date that we were shooting for was 2024. So we actually been working on this museum for years, trying to get it to the state that we'll be able to open the doors. Right now, the building is built. They're putting in the guts of the building now, the air conditioning, the plumbing, and getting the final touches ready with the exhibits. So Pete and I are busy going around the country with our curatorial team, building the collection that'll be displayed.
Okay.
And just to add to that, while we've been, working on this project, the whole 50th anniversary happened in the middle of it. And, we are partners with Mass Appeal on some different initiatives. And this whole opportunity came through Mass Appeal, who was working with Ciroc. So that's really how it all happened. And we did a special exhibit at Yankee Stadium for the concert on August 11th. And that kind of kicked off, the whole concept of taking it on a 6-city tour just to get the word out and just to expose more people to what we're doing and what's coming in the Bronx. So it's kind of like all things, you can blame it on the anniversary. We won't say Paradise and I are kind of like, it's not really the real anniversary, but it's always good to have a date to, memorialize and to actually give the respect to hip hop in general, whether it's whatever date it is. We're all that's all good for the, for hip hop in general.
Yep.
Absolutely. So then, how did the 2 of you guys end up being the 2 collaborating and then spearheading the initiative?
Well, me and Pete knew each other since Pete was about 17 years old. Back in the day, I had a partner named Lumumba, aka Professor X Carson from X Clan. And when I met him, he was managing artists, and Pete was one of the artists he was managing. At the time, I was running the Latin Quarter, the nightclub on 48th and Broadway in Manhattan. And Pete used to come through there, Search used to come through there, and thousands of hip hop legends to be. We all congregated at the LQ, and that's when me and Pete's original relationship began. But about 8 years ago, my mom passed, and out of everybody in hip hop, the only person that came and rang my doorbell was Pete Nice, and he showed up at my crib with a couple portfolios full of his hip hop collection, and we looked through his stuff, and I let him look through my collection, and we realized that together we had a extremely compelling collection of hip hop artifacts and memorabilia. And I was already working with the Hip Hop Museum at the time, so Pete was working on a couple books, and we started collaborating on the books that he was working on, and then I decided to ask him to join me in helping to build the collection for the Hip Hop Museum.
Okay. And then Pete, I also know you, or at least had been reading over the years that you had also had a huge baseball collection. So what made you have this collector's mentality from a young age?
Well, me and Dice collected baseball cards and comic books and stuff like that. So that's more of just like a collecting thing. That's maybe why we have kind of this disease of collecting. But like
Right.
we weren't necessarily thinking about our collecting of hip hop. We just like if Paradise did shows at the Latin Quarter, he would keep the flyers. If I was on tour, I would rip the set list or the lineup off the green room or the dressing room or whatever. Like we would just like pack rats and we would save everything and document everything, and that just led to us 30 years later saying, oh, look at all this stuff that we have here, and then looking at the relevance of a hip hop museum at this point, and basically through both of us we were able to kind of have the baseline of the collection for the museum. And it was through me and Paradise that we asked Rocky Bucano, the executive director, that we felt that we could do these pop-up exhibits to show people what was in store for the future at the museum and to build a momentum. And that's what we did for the past 4 years in the Bronx. We did these pop-up exhibitions called the Revolution of Hip Hop. So, we were able to use our collections and be instrumental in showing what this could actually be in the future.
Okay. And since both of you guys have deep history musically, Paradise, I wanted you to speak on To the East Blackwards. I always remember the cover, and I did an interview with Brother Jay where we talked in depth about that. People could see the link there. But with you, you had like Noble Drew Ali, you had Harriet Tubman, you had Martin Luther King Jr. on the cover next to your image on the cover of that album. And
Yeah.
now, and I think at times, you know, people look at things of historical value. I think we've kind of come full circle. Back in that era, that was revered and respected and appreciated. Then I think we went through a period where we don't want anything old or we don't want to look back. And now we're celebrating again. So why do you think we've gone in this wave of respect the elders, respect the architects, kind of not, and now we're getting more back to that?
Well, look at what's going on in the world. The world is still a ball of confusion. I think that it's really not intelligent to try to go to a future without a past. You know what I'm saying? It's very intelligent for us to examine, what our ancestors went through as they created culture and music, and look at what we did to survive and how we thrived and got over. The key to our survival as a people is written all in our music, all in our poetry, all in our culture. History and culture is how, in particular, so-called African Americans ground ourselves. And especially right now, I think we really need to do a much better job of educating our youth about what's going on. The past, the present, and the future, are all connected. And if you don't know your past, then you're bound to commit the same mistakes over and over in the future. So we got to do a lot better. A hip hop museum is more than just a record of rap music. You know what I mean? Rap music is just the soundtrack to our actual lives. We got to dig deeper, dig harder, and come up with concrete lessons to teach our children in the future.
Yeah, and that's one thing from what I've seen of the museum so far, that you guys have done a spectacular job because the flyers are there with the parties and such. So, Pete, I wanted you to explain why 50 years of hip hop flyers and why the flyers are such a important part of this history.
Well, like Dice was just saying, they document the who, when, and where, what actually happened at different points in the history of hip hop, where, they're like the foundational documents that are like, unless you have a tape of a jam, like that's probably the ultimate record of, hip hop. But in many cases that's not available. So the flyers really sometimes are the only thing that stands after the fact. And while we've been going on this tour throughout the country, and we do meet up with a lot of contemporary young artists, I mean, you would be shocked at the amount of artists today who do not even know who Kool Herc is. Like they do not know who he is. Who's that? So I think that's like Dice said, we've done like maybe a poor job of our generation and the older generation in honoring and telling the story of hip hop, from its earliest beginnings, and and that's the reason why we have this museum. So that's and I think the flyers more than anything, as something that's visual, that you can see photographs of people doing their thing, and all the names of all the everybody who was there. It's like Dice has said before, like people can lie about where they were or whatever, but the flyers a lot of times don't lie. It's all on there. And there are some jams that although there is a flyer,
The jam
it
didn't
doesn't mean
happen.
that the jam happened. It did, like, so like we had this one jam at Empire roller rink, and it never took off because I think Flash wouldn't agree to the terms, and then like Biz saw the flyer and he says, "No, no, man, I was there that night." So it's like you got Biz saying he was there, you got Flash saying he didn't take the money, and then you got Van Silk, the promoter, saying that they're all wrong, that it never happened, and it's a fake flyer, meaning it's fake that it just didn't happen, but it actually was a real flyer made by Phase Two. So we got all types of crazy stories about the flyers, and that's
Yeah,
kind of like it's like the hidden history of hip hop.
Yeah. So that being said, with the touring museum, a lot of the artifacts I saw were from 1973 to 1990. Paradise,
yeah,
why did you guys focus in on that time period?
because it's the foundation. You know what I'm saying? And the foundation is important. There's no way we could have had artifacts from all 50 years of hip hop on that tour. I mean, it would take, a phenomenal amount of money just to insure it and to transport it. So we just picked a snippet in time that was important. The foundation that, to get the stories in there that we could build around. Stories that people are already familiar with in most cases. Things that are not too difficult to explain, things where a picture can say 1,000 words and everybody can identify with it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, you look also if you look at like 1973 to 2000, that's what, 27 years, and then you have another 23 years from 2000 to present day. And when you really kind of like cut that in half and you look at how have things really changed from 23 to 2000, and how much change between just like 1977 and 1985 or 86. Like I just think that there are so many more innovations early on in the process, and that's like a big story to tell, for historians and for a
Yep,
museum. I mean, I think we have it's going to be much more of a challenge to see how a lot of the music and the culture, or if you want to call it culture now, uh, how it ages, how the artists that, in the past 10 years, 15 years, you know, and there are so many artists in so many
yeah,
different forms. And, I mean, it's like night and day. It's very difficult for us to, that's one of the challenges of the museum.